Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Current Today. So glad that you made Current a part of your day today and a part of your week. My name's Ben. If we haven't had a chance to meet before, but I'm looking out. I think I've met all of you today. I'm the lead pastor here at Current. Hey, what's up, Ben? How's it going? Listen, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the summer heat has officially arrived now. It was hot this week. I know that because I was out running and swimming at the same time. So, yeah, get it? Get it? Yeah, thank you. Dad jokes on already rolling. And it's not even Father's Day yet. Oh, bad jokes. Sorry. Yeah. But listen, because it's summer, I realize that, your routines, my routines, they're probably gone. You're probably, maybe, hopefully planning some vacations like my family's trying to do right now. Plan some time away this summer. It is week 3 of summer here at Current. And so far today, no alarms have been set off. Yet. So that's a win in and of itself. So we're going to celebrate that this morning. Hey, if you're new with us today, we're so glad that you're with us. We're glad that you're here. We love having people here because you, people in general, are our mission. We want to encourage, equip, and lead people to follow Jesus wherever you're at on your faith journey. That's our goal. That's our mission, our agenda today. And if it's your first time with us, or maybe your second, third time, but you've never taken this step yet, we'd love to meet you today. You can scan that QR code on screen. Let us know a little bit about you. We'll let you know a little bit about us. And, we got a gift for you as well. If you've never taken that step, we got a gift for you. We'd love to send you in the mail this week just for showing up, just for being here. Plus, we're going to give a gift on your behalf to a nonprofit. But in order to do that, we had to know that you're here. So let us know that you're here. Share that with us, and we will get you connected. What's up? Welcome today. Hey, by the way, if you are here and you call Current your church home, I'd love for you to pull out your phone right now. Yes, I'm inviting you to pull out your phone in the middle of what I'm talking to you about while I'm talking to you this morning. And go to Facebook. Start a post. Tell people about Current. Check in. Tag us. We'd love for you to do that. When you check in on Current, people check us out. Your friends check us out. So we'd love for you to do that. And it's an easy way for people, hopefully, to discover today that there is a church that is for them, and that church can be different, perhaps, than what it is that they are used to experiencing. Hopefully, they discover it's a place for them today. Thank you for taking that step. All right. We've got a great day ahead. We're going to sing a couple songs here in just a moment, led by myself and Harmony and Melody. And then we're going to jump into part 2 of Challenge Accepted, the series that we started last week. I think it's going to be really good for all of us, especially if you're going through something challenging in your life today. Altogether, we're going to be here for about 65 minutes, when all is said and done. Then you're going to be out and enjoy the rest of your Sunday doing whatever it is that you have planned for this summer day. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite you to stand. We're going to sing together. As you stand, turn to somebody next to you. Tell them, do you have any fun vacations planned or something fun you plan on doing this summer before it's over? And we'll get rolling.
You don't just tolerate us, you don't have somewhere to go. We're not your trophy children, you abandon when we roam. Your mercy's not a favor, and your presence isn't rushed. Oh, our God is love. The cross was not a vehicle for you to finally care. When we look upon your character, your grace was always there. Acceptance not withheld from us, no need to measure up. Oh, our God is love. His arms are open for all together. Hear the cross has spoken. There's nothing left to fear. Once and for all he showed how far his grace would go for us. Father's heart for us will never reach the end. I thought for sure I found it, but He proved me wrong again. So much higher, so much wider, so much deeper than we know. Our God is love. His arms are open for all to gather. Hear the cross has spoken. There's nothing left to hear. Once and for all He showed how far His grace would go for us. Our God is love.
Whatever picture I have isn't good enough. Whatever picture I have doesn't sum you up. It couldn't sum you up. Sing that again.
Whatever picture I have isn't big enough.
Whatever picture I have isn't good enough. Whatever picture I have doesn't sum you up. It couldn't sum you
The amazing thing about our God is that no matter what we are going through, no matter the picture that we have of Him, it's so much bigger and greater. Let's sing that together. It's overcoming every grave. It's overwhelming all the shame. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Our God is love. It's overcoming every grave. It's overwhelming all the shame. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Our God is love. Arms are open for all to gather. Hear the cross has spoken. There's nothing left to fear. Once and for all He showed how far His grace would go for us. Our God is love. It's overcoming every grave. It's overwhelming all the shame. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Our God is love. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Our God is love. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Our God is
Why did I waste so much time worrying? You've had a plan all along. I'm listening. You made a way out of deserts and rivers just yesterday. So today, if I hear you speak, I don't need an explanation. If you tell me move, I don't need the destination. If what's promised I never see, I'm still walking with you. You're still walking with me. You will redeem all the time I spent He'll see us through. Never alone in the fire. He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. Never alone in the water. He'll see us through. Never alone in depression. He'll see us through. Never alone in addiction. He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. And all our anxiety, I know. He'll see us through. In our darkest thoughts, I know Jesus. He'll see us through. Every circumstance, I know. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us. He'll see us through.
I hope that song has been encouraging for you today. You guys can go ahead and take your seats. It's good to sing that together. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today in our message as we get into part 2 of our series, and the fact that God, no matter what you're going through, He sees it, He knows it, He wants to walk through it with you, He wants to be there as part of it with you. Before we jump into that message, I just want to talk about, I talked at the beginning of our service about how summer is different. For many of us, it kind of disrupts our schedules a little bit. It disrupts our routines, kind of disrupts our priorities from time to time. You especially know this if you're a parent like me, and now you have, and I office from home. And so now I have kids in the house during the day and kids that have places to be. And so my routines and my schedule and my priorities they've shifted for the summer. And it's a lot easier to navigate that when I know it's coming, I will admit. But I do, because of the changes in routines and schedules and all that stuff and priorities and all that stuff, I just want to first of all commend all of you for being here today. Welcome. You made it to church on a Sunday in the summer, and that's a good thing. That's an awesome thing. Proud of all of you. Jesus, one of the things that He tells us, or one of the things that He told His followers, and for many of us in this room, we decided to be followers of Jesus. He says in Matthew chapter 6 that we should make it our priority, we should make it our routine to put the kingdom of God first in our lives, in every area of our life. And that if we put God first in every area of our lives and put His kingdom first in every area of our lives, everything else in our lives will fall into place. That's what He tells us, that we can trust Him in that. And one of those areas that we can do that includes generosity. It's an opportunity for us to put the kingdom of God first in our lives. And when it comes to our generosity towards the church especially, it's not really ultimately about our money. Really what it comes down to is whether or not we trust God and trust that everything that we have came from Him in the first place. When it comes to our generosity, it's an opportunity for us to go, God, I want to be a part of what it is that you're doing. I want to be a part of your kingdom and what it's doing in this world and part of what you're doing. And so your generosity, I just want you to know, some of you in this room, you're generous towards our church and you give. And it's an incredible thing. And I just want you to know that your generosity matters. It makes a difference. You are helping us create a place that kids love. You're helping us create a place where families find hope. You're helping us create a place for people who maybe in the past they've given up on church and they weren't sure that church was their thing, but people are discovering all over again that there is a place, there's a church that is for them, and there's a God that is for them. And that's what your generosity is helping make happen today. And so because it is summer, and I know that things are changing for all of us, and like the priorities and schedules and all that stuff just look different in the summer. I want to invite you to help us continue to be for St. Joe and for our community and for your family, your kids, your friends every week throughout the summer. So if you call Current your church home, I want to invite you to change lives with us and give today, give generously. I would encourage you, speaking of just schedules and routines, all that stuff being messed up, and like for me, I said this a minute ago, but like with my kids being home more, things have changed for me. And I actually wrote this down, and like as a reminder to myself a couple of months ago, I'm like, summer is coming, which means things are going to be more chaotic at home, which means you have to have a plan for things. And so I want to invite you to have a plan for your generosity. And one of the best ways you can do that is to set up a recurring gift. And that ensures that even if you're unable to be here on a Sunday throughout the summer, you're still helping us make sure that we are able to make this thing happen for people like you. And if you're new with us today, don't want you to feel any pressure to give. That's not an invite for you to give anything today. We want this service to be a gift to you. We are so glad that you're here. You're surrounded by people who want this service to be a gift to you. So we don't expect anything from you if you're new with us today. But for those of you that are giving generously, thank you for being a part of what God is doing in our church and in our community. And speaking of what God is doing, we're going to jump into what God is doing in our lives through the challenges that we face in part 2 of Challenge Accepted. And today we're going to, last week we started off this series with a video message from Joel Thomas. He's an excellent communicator from our network of churches. We get some great content. We benefit from some great content every single Sunday, just so you know, in our kids' environments and here. All of that content comes to us through our network, and sometimes we go to some great communicators from around our network, and so that's what we're doing as part of this series today. And so we're going to get to hear from Joel again, who's going to bring us part 2 of Challenge Accepted. So go ahead and turn your attention to the screen.
Don't be scared, floaties.
Don't be scared, floaties.
Walk the walk when I walk the street. Can't talk the talk if the talk is cheap. Just loosen up, it's a gorgeous thing. I gotta wake 'em up to enjoy the dream. This is high vibes, living lavish. Ooh, I gotta have it. This is how we make it move like ooh, va va voom, va va voom.
Well, we're in full swing around here in summer, and we're so thrilled you could be with us at all of our Atlanta area locations. If you're traveling, thrilled that you could join us for wherever you are in the world. We're thrilled to be able to connect on a regular basis. Several years ago, I was at a student camp, and that reminds me of a scene at this student camp. I want you to see if you can imagine this for a second. I was at this camp in Florida, and I was the speaker for the week, and I got there, and about midway through the week, there was a competition that was going to happen. And I didn't realize what kind of big deal this was, but there's a pool there, and I don't think for liability reasons they even have these anymore, but they had a high dive. It was much higher than that one. It was a high dive, and everybody's gathered around the pool, and there's going to be several prizes and champions. There's going to be a grand champion, and there was a returning champion, and I'm learning this from some leaders. I'm standing, I'm watching, and as he gets to the high dive, to climb to the top of the high dive, people start losing their minds. The students start chanting his name, and he gets to the top, and when he gets to the top, he walks out front, and he just is like, he's like there for it. He's like bringing everybody in, and everybody's chanting his name, and he backs up, and in my estimation, this is not a smart thing to do on a high dive. On a high dive, you could take a couple of steps. He goes all the way back, to the stairs, and he's going to go for it. And I think he got a little overzealous. I think the crowd got the adrenaline going too much, and he took off. And when he got to the edge of the springboard, he bounced, and he took off up in the air. And I will say he took off and it was impressive, the first part of it. He got up in the air, and I think he was trying to do a 1.5, but he flipped, and his flip was like perfect. He flipped over, and he opened up, I think, to do the dive at the end of this. Like this was gonna be his crowning moment. It was clear that there were no more revolutions coming. And it was just as he got about parallel with the water, and he's still got half the distance to go to the water. And he's going down, and you've seen a scene like this before. If you've ever seen a car accident or you see something coming, and it's like everything freezes and goes into slow motion. And I swear he was in slow motion in the sky, in the air, and everybody's quiet. And it's totally quiet, and I didn't have to coach anybody. Nobody told anybody what to do. As he got to that water, he smacked the water, and collectively everybody went, ugh. Which is how I felt y'all reacted to my sermon last week when we started with this. James, the brother of Jesus, have some respect. He said this. He said, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, which all of us are like, ugh. Like that's not what we want to hear, especially if you're in the midst of a trial. And this can feel insensitive, maybe even offensive. And the reason we don't like it, as we said last week, is because we're creatures of comfort. And we pursue comfort, we create comfort, and we're great at it. As a matter of fact, in the last 125 years or so, through modern conveniences, we've created the most comfortable society in history. And life is dramatically easier and more efficient and more comfortable. And the question we wrestled with last week is, but at what cost? There's a cost that's associated with this. And there's lots of studies. I don't even think we know fully the cost yet, but as a society, a radical reduction of discomfort in our society has made us far less prepared to face the intensity of real and avoidable life struggles. I mean, the reason first world problems is even an idea is because the rest of the world looks at our first world problems and they're like, those aren't problems. Our ancestors were looking and you're like, are you kidding me? That's the problems. But then we run into real world problems and we're not ready for it. And the challenge of James, as we started out last week, was to consider them pure joy. And it's consider because you're not gonna feel this way. It's almost impossible in the midst of a trial or a difficulty or a test or a challenge to feel pure joy. But as we looked, even the science backs it. The neuroscience tells us that there's something good on the other side of trials. And he says you should consider them as good because, specifically as it relates to your faith, you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. There's something productive. And there's a whole bunch of you last week at all of our locations. Some of you stood in your living rooms. Some of you stood at work. A bunch of you stood and you acknowledged that you were in the middle of a season that you would take some prayer for because it's testing your faith. And persevering is hard in the midst of that. And James said, you have to let perseverance finish its work, so that you can become mature and complete, not lacking in anything. And I told you last week, this isn't perfect, but the idea here is like that perseverance completed is what makes us completed. It's what leads to you becoming personally completed. It's sort of a play on words in the original language. And James is saying, you're gonna experience tension. In the midst of the struggle, there's resistance. In the midst of the trials, there's significant tension, but you have to let the tension do its work. And the main idea last week that we talked about is the fact that the tension point in our lives is often the focal point of God's activity. And you don't want to escape that or circumvent it or go around it because God's doing something in you. And accepting, the challenge of last week was accepting that tests and trials, difficulties are a necessary part of what you need to grow. Not just to grow, but to become complete. To become all of who and what you could be, what God dreamed you could be. But at times, it's really difficult. Part of the perseverance that's hard is knowing the right way to respond in trials. That's what's so difficult sometimes is it's like I'm in the midst of the trial and I don't trust my feelings. I don't trust how I would naturally respond. And interestingly enough, if we pick up right there at the last verse that we left off with last week, this is what James says. He says, so if anyone lacks wisdom, so you're going through a trial, you're going through a difficulty, you need to persevere, you're not sure what to do. If you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. This is a promise. But it's not how we pray in the midst of a struggle or challenging circumstances, right? And the reason is because in times of crisis, we don't want wisdom, we want relief. We're not looking for wisdom, we're not looking for perspective, we're looking for a way out because trials are uncomfortable. It's not what we gravitate towards. We gravitate towards environments and seasons of comfort in life. And when it's uncomfortable, when life is difficult, we're simply looking for a way out. Now, we're going to continue on with James today. In fact, this whole series, we're sticking with James, primarily James chapter 1. But today, we're going to jump a few chapters ahead. And to give you some context for that, if you were to kind of survey and structure the book of James, here's how it's structured. Chapter 1 is basically like an intro, and he gives you all the themes and topics of what he's going to talk about in the rest of his letter. And then chapters 2 through 5, which James didn't put the chapters on it, somebody else did. Chapters 2 through 5, he goes into specific short, challenging wisdom teachings. In fact, there's 12 individual short, challenging teachings in James's letter. So here's what I want to do. I want to springboard from chapter 1, because he's introduced this idea of wisdom, to chapter 3. Midway through chapter 3 is where he picks up this idea of wisdom, and he talks about the value of it. Now, before we get into this, speaking of wisdom, this is so brilliant. If you follow me through this and follow me through James's thinking, it is so relevant to our life. In fact, it's so right on with what we experience that if this doesn't motivate you to read your Bible for help, I'm not sure there's much hope for you, or at least I have any hope for you. There's such good stuff in here. So here's what he says. He gets to wisdom in chapter 3 and verse 13. He says, "Who is wise and understanding among you?" It's sort of like, go ahead, raise your hand. Who's wise and understanding among you? I'll tell you. Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that come from wisdom. James is basically saying, you claim to be wise, show me. And this is so James. In fact, his whole letter is about our works substantiating our faith. It's easy to say you have faith. It's easy to say ascribe to belief in following Jesus. But show me, James is saying. You're not justified by your works, but your works are a natural byproduct of true belief. What it looks like to be a follower is for that to work its way into your life and for it to be expressed in your practical application in your life. And it's evidenced in response to life's most difficult circumstances. He says this, but if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, which, think about this, this is what happens when we're in difficult seasons, right? If somebody wronged you or somebody hurt you in the midst of this season, you're like, why me? And sometimes we look up to God and we're like, why me? Why now? What did I do? And what happens is in those seasons, this envy of somebody else's situation or somebody else's life and our desire to get out of what we're in the midst of, the truth is it causes us to be self-focused. And that's because pain is selfish. When you experience pain, it's selfish. Think about it. You stub your toe. You drop something on your foot. You bump your head. It's all you can think about. It's all you're dealing with. And look, some of you, you're in the midst of really difficult things. And here's the thing. You're thinking, look, I didn't choose this. If you heard my story, you realize this was done to me. How do you call me selfish? I'm not calling you selfish. What I'm saying is that your pain is selfish. And pain causes us to become self-focused because pain is a form of focus. He goes on, he says, look, don't boast about it or deny the truth, which seems like a weird thing to say, but this is what happens. And in fact, it's not talking about boasting in terms of like bragging. This is a more subtle expression of pride. This is the idea that when we're feeling negative emotion, we're feeling difficulty, we're feeling pain, in the midst of trials, we often elevate, think about this, we elevate our feelings above everything else. It is ultimately the definition of what's true. We see our circumstances, we see our situations, we see our relationships through the lens of our pain. That's the perspective we see it. And what this does is it empowers our emotions to dictate our perspective. And sometimes justify our actions and our feelings. What James is saying is they often distort our ability to recognize the truth or admit the truth or embrace the truth. Now, he's not saying that how you feel is not important or even legitimate. What he is saying is don't fool yourself into thinking that your feelings, they don't impact your perspective on reality, because they do. They shape how you're acting and reacting. Maybe you've heard this said before. Emotions are good indicators, but they're terrible dictators, especially negative emotions. Negative emotions typically are an indicator that there's something wrong. But when you put that on the throne in your life, when you put that in first place and you allow it to dictate your life, what you do is we empower our emotions to rule. And that further complicates things. It creates an even bigger mess. It creates even more challenging situations. And you know this. You've experienced this. You've watched people and you've watched them react to things. You watch them react in a situation and you're like, that was not that big a deal. And then you go, I don't think this was about that. This is about something else. There's something else going on. There's a backstory. There's something else going on in that. And the truth is we all do this. And James is saying that you're holding on to some things inside of you when you harbor those things. And you can't let go of those things when you don't deal with those things. They impact your life. They are sort of a script you begin to listen to. They are a form of wisdom. And he goes on to say, such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but it's earthly and it's unspiritual and it's demonic. The heart is wicked and deceitful. Who knows the depth of its depravity? That's what the wisdom writer said. And this is the reality. When we allow those emotions to dictate rather than to inform or to be an indicator of something, it leads us somewhere we don't want to go. 4, he says, where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. This is the problem with the popular idea these days of following your heart. It sounds so good. Just follow your heart. You got to be true to yourself and to your truth, and you got to follow your intuition. That's awesome. If you want to follow your heart, just be clear. Here's where it leads. It leads to disorder. And it leads to evil practice. And what happens is your emotions, they betray you. And they lead you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't do. But, he says, in contrast, the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure. Here's what he means by this. When you think about it, this wisdom is objective. It's not clouded by your emotions. It's not tainted by your feelings. It's not driven by your natural reactions to the hurt and pain that you're experiencing in your life. It's like when you get wisdom from an outside source. I mean, part of the reason the wisdom of heaven is pure is because it's not sucked into your circumstances. You've seen this before. You'll talk to somebody and they'll give you a piece of wisdom or they'll give you some perspective and you're like, you're so smart. And the truth is they're not that smart. They're just not clouded by what you're clouded by. They're not in a fog. They're not in darkness trying to stumble around. They can see from an outside perspective, and it's clear. And this true wisdom, it's pure. And when you're not experiencing this hurt and pain, you can act in ways that are consistent with the way God designed you and wants you to act. He says it's pure. The wisdom of heaven is pure. And this is what it looks like. Even in the midst of difficult seasons, it's peace-loving, it's considerate, it's submissive, it's full of mercy and good fruit, it's impartial, and it's sincere. And that's true even when you don't feel like it, and even when they don't deserve it. But this is difficult. Because nothing in us, especially if you've been betrayed or hurt or something was done to you, even if it's stuff you brought on yourself, these aren't the things that come natural in those seasons. But this is what the wisdom of heaven leads us toward. And it leads us away from making a bigger mess. And if you're anybody who's a parent of a teenager, you know this. You know the power of this kind of wisdom. When kids are in the middle of what feels like a crisis, a breakup, an embarrassment, betrayal, failure, rejection, it feels like the end of the world. It feels like their world is over. They're never going to be able to go beyond this. And what you think is, and you probably don't say it, which is probably good, but here's what you think. You think if you could see this through 40-year-old eyes instead of 14-year-old eyes, you would see what I see. You would see that this is necessary for you. That you would see that this is part of how life really is. And with low risk and low stakes in this season, you're learning and you're growing and you're maturing and you're being strengthened. And your Heavenly Father looks at you the same way. And he says, you're going to be okay. And if you'll follow my wisdom, I'll lead you through it in a better way. And in fact, he says, peacemakers, that's what you want to be. Peacemakers who sow in peace. They reap a harvest of righteousness. But if you've been wronged or betrayed or hurt or marginalized, you feel like you're suffering unjustly. And you don't feel like this idea of peacemaking, you don't feel like this is your responsibility. You feel like somebody else is at fault. Somebody else is to blame. But let me ask you this. Isn't it true you want peace? Isn't it true that you want things to be made right? And the wisdom of heaven says, I'm the God of all peace. I'm the God of all righteousness. If you'll place that in my hands and follow my wisdom, I'll lead you through this. The problem is you're dealing with all this struggle and this stuff that's going on inside of you, and you're having a hard time letting go of that. Now, James has been hinting around to something he's about to come out and say. And at this point, it's going to get even a little more uncomfortable. And if you're following along in your Bible, you know we just got to the end of chapter 3. You're thinking, well, something new's coming to chapter 4. I don't know who put the chapter markers in there. They did a lot of great work. In this spot, they missed it. Because the reality is he doesn't change subjects. In fact, all he does is he goes a little bit further. He pushes a little bit harder with a leading question. And he says this, because this is what happens when we follow our heart. What causes fights and quarrels among you? There's something stirring inside of you. What causes the fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? I mean, and this is right. Especially when you're in the midst of a trial or challenging circumstances. You're hurting. And the truth is you want relief, you want resolution, you want a way out, you want justice. And the tension that you're feeling on the inside, it can't help but to seep its way out and create conflict and further complicate things, further complicate what you're in the midst of. He spells it out. He says, look, you desire, but you do not have, so you kill, which is every episode of Dateline in 2020, is it not? Every single one. That's what happens. I mean, this is what happens. And you're thinking, well, I never killed anybody. But you've killed other things. You've killed relationships. You've killed opportunities. You've wrecked and destroyed things in your life. And it's because you weren't getting what you wanted. You covet, he says. But you cannot get what you want. So you quarrel and fight. And it creates conflict in some of your most important relationships. And it's not what's really going on in the relationship, it's what's going on inside of you. And it's what we do reflexively. So here's my question. And this is what I want to drive toward for the rest of our time. Is it possible? I know there's things that have gone wrong. Somebody else did something. There's other circumstances. You're going, it's bad luck. It's who knows what. But the reality is it possible that at least part of the reason you're not experiencing the peace in your life that you wish you were experiencing right now is that you're not getting what you want? Even if what you want is good. Unmet and unfilled desires, when they're undealt with, they have a way of multiplying the challenges that we face in our life. They have a way of further complicating the trials that we're in the midst of. And when we do that, we give ourselves a more permanent seat in the midst of the trial because we complicate the problems and we have more we have to deal with. James says that here's the reality. Here's why you don't have what you want. You don't have because you don't ask God. Some of you are thinking, are you kidding me? That's all I do. Do you know how much I've prayed about this? Do you know how much I've asked? Do you know how much I've pleaded with God over and over? And so far, I've gotten no answer. And so far, it seems like his answer might be no. I've prayed about this. I've asked God, but let me just gently push you just a little bit. And look, I don't know your circumstances, but here's what I do know. Isn't it true that when you're in the midst of a challenging situation and circumstances, you're primarily focused on the things around you that you wish would change? It's all the things around you that you want God to fix. That's what we talk to God about. God, could you fix these circumstances? Would you deliver this? Would you open this opportunity? Would you remove this? But have you ever asked God about what needs to change in you versus what needs to be changed around you? You see, our second challenge in this series is to accept that there might be things within you that need to change before God decides to change the things around you. It might be the work that he's doing, the focal point of his activity. You see, oftentimes in the midst of trials, we have little to no control over what is going on around us. However, you have a lot more control about what's going on inside of you. And you can take responsibility for that. Now, here's one of the things I want to make clear. I'm not saying that what you're going through is entirely your fault. I'm not even saying it's mostly your fault. I'm not saying it's any of your fault, though it may be. It could be entirely your fault. Here's what I am saying is either way, the path through your trial or challenge might be something God changes in you before he changes things around you. That often is the path. Looking inward, it requires a courage to accept the fact that there's something wrong within us that needs to change. And we don't pursue that because that's uncomfortable. That feels like it goes to our identity, like we're broken. There's something wrong with me. As your pastor, I'm here to encourage you today and say, there is something wrong with you. There is, with all of us. And it's those things that are stirring and battling inside of us that God wants to resolve for you. And more often than not, here's what happens. Because of the uncomfortability of that, because of what it is to face that, because I got to go back and face the past, because I got to deal with things that I don't want to talk about, and I got to bring up things people want to talk to me about, or I need to process things that I've been trying to forget about. Here's what happens. We often remain the same until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. We remain the same. There's no growth, there's no change. And we sit in that trial, we sit in that difficulty until we get to the place where the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. Now, I'm going to draw this real quick, and it's going to look similar to last week, but it's a completely different graph. And this is important because this is what this looks like. And I think this could help some of you. And honestly, this is what this looks like, but this is also illustrates. I think it illustrates exactly what James is telling us. And it's whether you're however long you've been in a trial, there's some duration. There's some duration period of your trial. Everybody has a different time period of something you're going through. Some of you have been in a trial for a really long time, and then on this axis over here, there's your perception of pain. And I say perception of pain because our perception isn't always reality. However, your perception of pain is important. And it's an important part of this scenario. But what happens is when you first look at the idea of change, like you have to change. You want to change the circumstances. But when you're looking at change for you personally, you're thinking, that's a high cost. There's a high degree of pain if I've got to change. Now, if somebody else has to change or the circumstance have to change, that's great. That can make my life easier. If I can stay the same, that's a lot less pain for me. But what happens is as we move along this axis, and that's what often happens during the duration of this trial, as you move along this axis and the trial goes on, the pain of remaining the same, it begins to escalate and it goes up. And somewhere over here on the other side of where these two things cross, the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. And you think, I need to do something about this. But it's usually a very painful moment. This is often known as the breaking point. Some of you have been there. You hit rock bottom and you were broken. And you thought, I wish I could have seen this earlier. And this is what James is saying. See, you don't have what you want. You're not where you want. You don't have the peace. Things aren't right because you haven't asked God. And when you did, you didn't like what he said because his wisdom is back here. And your perception was that was going to be a lot of pain for that to change. Maybe it's just your perception, but maybe it's real. But it's going to keep you. This gap is our denial that something needs to change on the inside of us. And the reason is, and we talked about this last week, is because of we want comfort. But comfort is what we're trying to reclaim in the midst of a significant trial. And James is saying, this is the path to comfort. The primary driver of our pursuit of comfort externally, by the way, it's due to a lack of experiencing comfort internally. When you experience this is what James is saying, internal discomfort, it complicates things on the outside. Now, maybe things on the outside are causing internal discomfort, but it didn't originate there. And we respond to internal discomfort a lot of different ways. Sometimes there's at least 3 specific ways. Sometimes we try to compensate for it, and we compensate in all sorts of different ways. We compensate by trying harder. We compensate by trying to make more money, amass more wealth, more stuff, with things that we pursue things we think will make us happy. More power, more money, more responsibility in life. You know, I'm a bigger deal. I'm more popular. I'm more valuable. I'm seen as more important. And we try to compensate for what we're feeling on the inside. And it doesn't work. And when we realize that, what we do is we try to escape it. We do this in other ways. We do this, oftentimes through travel and through entertainment and surfing online and getting lost in other things and novels and Netflix and all sorts of things. We try to escape, and we try to get away from the fact that we're feeling this discomfort that we have on the inside, this feeling of not being happy. And we try to escape, or we try to medicate. And there are certainly healthy medications in difficult seasons. Sometimes healthy medications are important, but that's not what I'm talking about. Sometimes we medicate and we use substances, or we fall into addictions, or we use things or use people in ways to medicate, to feel better about ourselves. And the reality is these things, all they do is they just distract us and they preoccupy us from what really needs our attention, and it leads us away from wisdom and towards a breaking point in life. And you could either choose to heed the wisdom, or you can eventually find yourself past that point in a place you don't want to be, because these things are woefully inadequate. They're woefully inadequate substitutions for the comfort that you want. They're even some sort of synthetic comfort, but that's what we use them as, because of the discomfort that we're feeling on the inside. But here's the truth is comfort is actually a core need in life. And you can't, I learned this years ago, you can't medicate or compensate or escape a core need. I learned this through attachment theory, and my wife and I were going through some counseling, and if you're not familiar with attachment theory, attachment's just about how one human attaches to another. And the reality is healthy attachment requires security, and a secure attachment style, or a lack of attachment disorder, which most all of us experience some level of disorder. Nobody had perfect parents. You didn't grow up in a perfect world. The reality is at a young age, your attachment style or your attachment ability was formed. And the truth is secure attachment is an essential building block for emotional and relational health. And you can't get around this. And the core deficiency, think about this, the core deficiency for secure attachment is related to comfort. It's the ability to experience true, healthy, give and receive healthy comfort in the midst of distress. and our escapes and preoccupations and addictions. They soothe, but they never satisfy. They mask what's really underneath. And they offer us no comfort, which is what you're really seeking. It's what I'm really seeking is comfort for what's going on the inside. And what these things do is they lure us into meeting a legitimate need for comfort in illegitimate ways. So with our remaining minutes, here's what I want to do. I want to give you some helpful tools. I'm going to give you a few steps for looking inward. How do I do this? Because this is something we all need the ability. You need tools to be able to do this. And nobody taught you this stuff. Nobody taught you this stuff in school. James has unpacked this really relevant, important thing for us. And we need to start in terms of looking inward. You have to start by identifying why you need comfort. What's the root of the discomfort inside of you? Not the circumstances going on around you. What's the root of the discomfort inside of you? What's the insecurity or the inadequacy? Is there a loneliness, a failure, some other hurt or hang up that you haven't been able to let go of or you haven't dealt with? And where does that come from? What were you trying to measure up to? What are you trying to compensate for? What are you trying to escape from? And here's the thing, I've worked through this in my life, and I continue to work through it. The reality is some of you need help from a counselor. I did. I needed somebody objective, somebody wise outside of me. And we do counseling referrals at all of our churches. And sometimes you're in your life and you can't figure out. Some of you know exactly where it comes from. And you know you need to deal with it. Some of you, you're not sure where it comes from. And having somebody who's trained to help you with that has been immensely helpful for me. The truth is the challenging season you're in, though, the challenges that you're facing, the trial you're in the midst of, while it's multiplied and intensified your pain or the legitimate need you have for comfort, it's not the source of it. And you have to get beneath it to find the source, why you're in need of comfort. The second thing is to seek healing for your hurt. And this can be surgical. Sometimes, you gotta find out, because this is what you really need. This is what you really want. And this is what James was saying. This is what you want that you don't have. You want peace. You want things to be made right. And the reason you don't have it, James says, don't be mad at me, is because there's only one place it comes from. And it comes from the healer. And you have to look to the healer to restore and to renew and to heal what's going on inside of you. The truth is acting out by compensating or escaping or medicating, that's never going to heal what's going on inside of you. In fact, it'll only further erode your soul. Paul, the Apostle Paul, he said it this way. He said, when you do that, you're actually sinning against you. That's what you're doing. It's not good for you. Years ago, I've told some of you the story before, but years ago, I was in probably one of the most difficult or intense seasons of my life. And I came home from work one day. We were living in Arizona at the time. I came home from work, and my wife Jen was, the kids were running around. My wife Jen's finishing up dinner. We're about ready to eat dinner. And I went and grabbed a bottle of wine. I opened a bottle of wine right there on our island. Which to you, some of you are like, okay, you're going to have a glass of wine with dinner. But the truth is my wife doesn't drink wine. And I have 4 minors in the house, and they're not going to help me with it either. And the reality is I just would never do that. Because usually I would only open a bottle of wine if we were with a group of people or we were having other people at the house. Like, I wouldn't drink a bottle of wine by myself. And I as soon as I opened the bottle of wine, I was standing there and a thought came into my head. And the thought that came to my head was, so this is how this starts. And I thought, that feels important. And I stood there for a minute. I put my hands on the island. And then I thought, I think I'm open this because I need it, not because I want it. The next thing I heard in my head was, you should say that out loud. And I did. I said, I think this is how this starts. And Jen was like, what starts? And I said, I think I just opened this bottle of wine because I need it, not because I want it. That bottle was never going to heal me. It wasn't going to change the circumstances around me. It wasn't going to change what was going on inside of me. I'm not judging anybody who drinks wine. I'm just saying, we use those things. We go to those things to compensate, to escape, to medicate us from dealing with the things that really will bring true comfort. And what we really need to do is pursue healthy forms of comfort. The truth is your Heavenly Father, He loves you. And He wants for you, He desires for you to experience the deepest levels of comfort and healing in the midst of your pain. And here's what God often does. He often uses someone in your life to provide the comfort necessary to heal your hurt, to heal you in the midst of what you're in the middle of. And you think it's about things around you and your circumstances changing, but it's not. There's something going on inside of you that you didn't even know was controlling you. And it's coloring your perspective on everything. And it's actually making the things, the trials, the difficulties you're in the midst of, prolonged, and it makes them more difficult. And ultimately, it's leading you away from wisdom, and it's leading you towards more pain and a breaking point in your life. A whole bunch of you reached out this week. I got a bunch of messages. I heard a lot of heartbreaking stories. And I want to give you something. This is emotional for me because this is how I felt. When I was in the midst of one of the most painful seasons of my life, I felt like it would never end. Some of you know this. You know this feeling. You experience such a significant darkness. Like it just feels like this is never going to go away. I'm never going to get out of this. And the darkness feels so heavy, and you feel like you've run into this. You ran into something, and it's like, this is never going to change, and I'm going to be in the middle of this forever. And honestly, it feels like the darkness of a cave. And I don't know if you resonate with what I'm talking about, but I was in such a difficult season that I just thought, Lord, I don't know that I'll ever get out of this. I wasn't diagnosed as clinically depressed, but it was a difficult season. And the truth is I feel like I had some people in my life that just wouldn't let me quit. And this is what James is talking about. He's like, you got to keep walking, you got to keep going. And there is one that'll lead you and he'll guide you. But the truth is you feel like this darkness you're in, you feel like it's a cave. But you're not in a cave. It's a tunnel. See, caves and tunnels look the same on the outside, but they're not the same thing. You're looking for a way out of the darkness, but the way out is through. And if you'll allow Him, God will lead you through. He'll see you through to the other side of what may feel like a never-ending season of darkness. The Good Shepherd, He'll be faithful to guide you and lead you. If you'll look up to the healer, the only one who can bring the true comfort in the midst of what you're in the middle of, because it's not what's going on around you. It's something that's going on inside of you. And He's an expert at what's going on inside of you. And He will heal you. He'll bring hope. And He will see you through. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, today we claim the words of David, who said, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. For some people in this room, they're dealing with real deaths. Others, deaths of dreams, grieving the loss of something, having to reframe life in general, and it feels dark. There's a shadow that's been cast by that death or that brokenness or that loss. And David said, even though I walk through that valley, through that tunnel of darkness, you're with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Your rod provides protection. Your staff provides direction for me. And your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So God, I pray today, supernaturally, you would use your rod and your staff for those who look up, who are looking to you. Pray you surround them with people that can bring the wisdom of heaven into their circumstances and into their life, and maybe into insight as to what's going on inside of them. And that you would bring hope, and you would bring healing, and you'd bring help in a way that only you can, as we look up to you, the healer. And I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
So this week, as you continue to walk through things, and we're all walking through things. You've probably all heard the quote before that you never know what somebody else is walking through. As you're walking through that stuff, try and just think and reflect, what might God be trying to do in me as you walk through it. Next week, we're going to conclude the series, and I'm excited about it because we're going to conclude it on Father's Day, which is always a good time around here. So we pull out all the stops on Father's Day, and we'll have some bacon. And we that's great. We'll have some bacon, and we always bring in some yard games and play some fun games. It's always a good time for the kids. I've got another surprise lined up for men next week that I'm pretty excited about myself. So it's a fantastic week to be here. Bring the father figure in your life, your dad, your grandpa, somebody special to you. It's always a good time. So make sure you're here next Sunday for Father's Day, and we'll conclude the series at that time. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week.